Benjamin Netanyahu. For decades, that name has been at the center of Israeli politics, and really world politics. But today, he's facing what you might call a perfect storm. A whole bunch of crises, all hitting at the exact same time. So how does he handle it? That's what we're going to dig into. Using some really fascinating analysis, we're going to unpack the leadership playbook that has come to be known as the Netanyahu Doctrine. And if you want to understand that playbook, you have to start right here, with this quote. It comes from a long-term behavioral study, and it's basically the key to the whole thing. The sources we've looked at all seem to point to this one idea, that every single decision is seen through one critical lens, political survival. That's the thread that ties it all together. And believe me, the pressure is just immense. Think about it. He's leading a country at war, dealing with these huge divisions at home over the very nature of democracy, clashing with his most important ally, and on top of all that, he's fighting his own personal legal battles. It's a multi-front conflict for sure. So let's break it down, front by front, starting at home. All right, first up, the domestic battleground. This is where the fight for his political future has been raging. And it's this really volatile mix of controversial policies and, well, his own personal legal troubles. So it all really kicked into high gear in late 2022 with this huge plan to overhaul the entire justice system. The basic idea was to give politicians more control over who becomes a judge and to limit the Supreme Court's power to strike down laws. Now, his supporters said this was just about rebalancing power. But his opponents? They saw it as a direct attack on Israel's democratic checks and balances. And there's actually a term for this kind of thing that democratic theorists use: executive aggrandizement. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what it means is a leader using the very tools of democracy to slowly, piece by piece, weaken the institutions that are supposed to hold their power in check. And critics of the judicial reform said, yep, that's exactly what this is.
And this slide, wow, this really highlights the personal stakes in all this. Back in 2008, when Prime Minister Ehud Olmert was under investigation, Netanyahu was crystal clear. A prime minister up to his neck in scandal has no business leading. Fast forward to today with his own trial, and the story is completely different. Now he's the victim of a conspiracy. The contrast is just stark, and it shows you how central his own legal fight is to everything else that's happening.
And look, this isn't just political drama. It has real, tangible costs. This chart shows you exactly what's been happening to Israel's economy. The combination of all that political instability and the massive cost of the war has put the economy under huge strain. That jump in the debt-to-GDP ratio, that's a clear signal of just how high the price tag is for all these crises.
Okay, so now let's zoom out from the home front to the world stage, because all those domestic pressures we just talked about, they don't happen in a bubble. They have a direct impact on his foreign policy, where we see a very similar pattern, a lot of confrontation, and a laser focus on existential threats.
The relationship with the United States, Israel's most important ally, is under some serious strain right now. I mean, there are major disagreements with the Biden administration over how the war is being fought, and maybe even more importantly, what happens the day after. But here's the really fascinating twist. Some analysts suggest that Netanyahu actually sees this public fight with the U.S. president as a political win for him back home. It can rally his base and make him look like a tough defender of Israel.
Now, when it comes to his adversaries, there's one name that has been a constant for over 30 years: Iran. And this timeline is just remarkable. Look at this. Since 1992, whether in the Israeli parliament or at the UN with that famous cartoon bomb, the message has been almost word for word the same. Iran is just about to get a nuclear weapon. That consistency, year after year, has been the absolute cornerstone of his foreign policy. And this quote from that same UN speech in 2012, it really gets you to the core of his worldview. He's basically erasing the line between a country, Iran, and a terrorist group. In his framing, there's no nuance. The threat is absolute, it's existential, and so it demands an absolute response. This really sets the stage for how he talks about the world. So to really get inside his doctrine, you have to listen to the words he uses. I mean, if you analyze his speeches, it's like a masterclass in rhetoric. And it's all built on this incredibly powerful and consistent framework of us versus them. And there it is, the fundamental divide. In his telling, it's not just a political conflict. It's a grand, historic battle between two completely opposite forces: the modern world, which is Israel and its allies, and the medieval world of its enemies. The language he uses to describe them is so visceral, so intense. They're not just opponents, they're savage enemies, murderous monsters. This isn't just talk. It frames the entire conflict as a defense of civilization itself. And when you do that, compromise doesn't just look hard, it looks morally wrong. This table just lays it all out so clearly. Look at the two columns. On the us side, everything is positive. Civilization, peace, hope, modernity. And then you look at the them column, it's a mirror image of everything negative. Barbarism, terror, darkness. This is no accident. It's a very carefully built story meant to draw a sharp moral line in the sand. Okay, so what does this all add up to? When you pull all these different threads together, the domestic battles, the international posture, the powerful rhetoric, a really clear and consistent pattern of behavior emerges. This is what we can truly call the survivor's doctrine. And you know what's wild? Behavioral analysts who studied Netanyahu way back in 1999 and then again in 2017, they found these incredibly consistent traits. Things like a sense of grandeur, a deep-seated suspicion and feeling of victimhood, a use of manipulation to survive politically, and a leadership style that demands absolute personal loyalty. But here's the real kicker from that research. It's not just that these patterns have been super stable for almost 20 years. It's that some of them have actually gotten more intense over time. His suspicion, his sense of being a victim, the researchers said these traits have become radicalized. It suggests this isn't just a political strategy, it's deeply baked into who he is as a leader. So a pretty clear picture emerges from all this, right? A leader for whom political survival seems to be the ultimate goal. His doctrine is one of durability, of outlasting every crisis, and maybe even using conflict to make himself stronger. The final question then isn't really whether he'll survive this current storm. The real question we're left with is, what will the lasting legacy of this doctrine be for Israel and for the entire region?